Dexcom G7, so this one is finally commercially available in the US, and you might be wondering, well, is it worth it? That is what this video is all about. I just finished wearing my first Dexcom G7, and this is my review. And this is strictly unbiased, as I do not work with Dexcom or any of the other CGM manufacturers. I'm Christelle from Diabetes Strong, and I've been on type 1 diabetes since 1997. I started wearing a Dexcom CGM continuous glucose monitor around 2015. Before that, I wore a Medtronic CGM. And I found the Dexcom G5 to be an upgrade from the Medtronic sensor, and then again the Dexcom G6 to be an upgrade from the G5. So I was really curious to see what exactly Dexcom could do with the G7. And it didn't disappoint. Dexcom G7 has some very cool updates. But it's not all rainbows and butterflies. I would say that the Dexcom G7 also has some downsides. Hopefully my experience could be an extra piece of information that you can use to help decide whether or not you want to upgrade. Let's dive in. Let's start with what has not changed from the Dexcom G6. And what has not changed is that the sensor is still a 10-day sensor. And then not really. Because yes, the sensor still has a 10-day lifetime. However, Dexcom has added a 12-hour grace period. So in reality, the Dexcom G7 has a lifespan of 10 days and 12 hours. I know some of you had wished for a 14-day sensor. I must admit the 10 days do not bother me one bit. I don't really want something on my skin more than 10 days anyway. And just as the Dexcom G6, the Dexcom G7 sends your glucose readings to the app on your phone or the receiver every 5 minutes. I'd really like to see Dexcom work a little bit on that. I mean, given the Freestyle Libre can send readings every minute, I'm sure Dexcom could figure out how to do that as well. But aside from those two things, most other things about the G7 has either been changed or slightly altered, so it does feel like a true upgrade from the G6. Before we get to all the stuff that I really appreciate about the Dexcom G7, let's talk about what really bummed me out. I say the first thing, and this was a real annoyance, was the constant loss of signal. I experienced 5 episodes of lost signal while wearing this sensor. And all 5 cases, I had my phone on me. I had it in my back pocket. So it wasn't because my phone was too far away. Often I don't feel my low blood sugar, so I don't have any symptoms. And unfortunately, one of these signal loss episodes were happening while I was out for a walk. And once the signal came back, it was showing that I was having a low blood sugar. So I wasn't too happy about that. I do have the alert sounding for lost signal, so at least I was aware that I wasn't getting any readings, but again, it's unfortunate. I will have to wear a few more Dexcom G7 sensors before I can tell you whether or not this was just a wonky sensor or this is a general issue with the Dexcom G7. Another thing that I thought was a bit of a shame is that there doesn't seem to be a Dexcom G7 widget. So the widget allows me to see my glucose readings without having to open up the Dexcom app. And I find the Dexcom G6 widget really helpful, so I hope it's something that Dexcom will work on. It's not a deal breaker in any way, it was a nice to have. And the final thing that's unfortunate is that at this point in time, the Dexcom G7 does not integrate with any of the insulin pumps. So if you're using a hybrid closed loop pump, such as the Tandem or the Omnipod pumps, you might want to wait and not upgrade until they've ironed that out. Dexcom says that they're working on it, and I'm sure they are. Honestly, I think there's too much money involved for them to not be working on this. So I'm sure it'll come soon. And that was a fairly short list of don't likes, so let's just dive into the positives of the Dexcom G7 and why I will be switching over from the Dexcom G6 to the Dexcom G7. So you might be wondering, what do you mean by you will be switching over? How did I get my hands on this one? Well, the thing is, you've actually been able to buy Dexcom G7 outside of the US, so in certain European countries, for a while now, and you can get it without a prescription. So that's how I got this one. I got this one in London, and I just wanted to try it out as soon as it became commercially available here in the US, and of course give you the download. So I'll be switching over as soon as my current prescription for the Dexcom G6 is up. So as you know, it's a 3-month prescription for most of us. Mine is up in April. And my hope is to switch over to G7 at that point. Now let's dive in and look at all the positives. Let's start out by talking about accuracy, because accuracy is probably the most important thing when it comes to whether or not a CGM is worth it. When we talk about accuracy for a CGM, it's measured in something called MARD, M-A-R-D. The lower the MARD, the better. Originally, what had been communicated was that the Dexcom G7 would be similar or the same as the G6 when it comes to accuracy. However, it's been marketed as having a MARD of 8.2%. That's better than the Dexcom G6 MARD, which was 9%, and this is for adults. It's a little lower for children. I must admit, I didn't notice any significant difference in accuracy between Dexcom G6 and Dexcom G7, but I've kind of found my G6s to be really accurate lately. So, I mean, that's all positive, I guess. And honestly, I just love that they keep improving the accuracy of these devices. And hopefully, the next one's going to be even lower than 8.2. What really blew my mind, and probably a little bit more than I expected, was the 30-minute warm-up period. Oh my gosh. So being used to 2-hour warm-up period, this was amazing. The whole insertion process felt very smooth, very streamlined. It's completely different than the Dexcom G6, but I was up and running so fast. And honestly, I would probably have upgraded to the G7 just based on that one feature, but that might just be me. I also really like the size of the Dexcom G7. So back when I started talking about G7, I mentioned that it was probably not the most important feature for me, and it still isn't. But a lot of you pointed out that this is going to be a really important upgrade for example, for children, or for people who are a little bit more conscious about wearing their diabetes devices. And I think you're right. I do listen. I think you guys are completely right. I think this is going to be a real upgrade for a lot of people. So let me just show you the size difference. So here you go. You have Dexcom G6 to the left and the new G7 to the right. Look at that. It's 60% smaller. How much flatter it is. And it's a different product. And so you can get a feel for the exact size. This is Libre 3. So you can see it's still larger than Libre 3, but Dexcom is definitely getting there. The size of the Dexcom G7 and the fact that it's an integrated device, so no more transmitter and sensor separated, it's one device, means that Dexcom has been able to reduce the amount of trash significantly. See, that's something I can get really excited about. Look at this. This is the G7 trash here, and then we have the G6 trash. So much more. So wasteful. The integration of transmitter and sensor into one device does mean that you can restart the sensor as you could with the Dexcom G6, or at least it means that no one has figured out how to do that yet. And the final thing I want to include here is the updated app and alerts, and I really like them for the most part. What's really cool about the updated alerts are most of them can be silenced completely or you can delay them. I feel like Dexcom really listened and tried to address a lot of the issues people had in regards to alarm fatigue or just alarms being very loud and sounding at times that were really inconvenient. What I don't love is that I don't really find it as intuitive as the Dexcom G6 app. And also, I don't really care for having clarity included in the Dexcom app, but that might just be me, but let me show you. So go in on the settings and click alerts. And here, the big new thing is a quiet mode. So let me just show you what they write here. But basically, it's that you can set your phone to vibrate instead of having the alarm sound. I think this is really cool. So you turn that on, then you can set the duration. Do you want it to be an hour? Maybe just for the next, maybe you have a meeting, you don't want to be disturbed. Or maybe you want to not have the alerts forever. You choose. Then I have my alert profiles. It imported that from the Dexcom G6. But if we click on high, let's go and look at some of the details. So there's different things here. I think what's interesting is this sound vibration option. So here you can choose basically how loud do you want the alerts to be. Do you want it just to vibrate? Do you want it to match your phone? The new thing here that is really cool is the delayed first alert. So that basically means that when my blood sugar hits 160, well, if I have this on, right now it's 20 minutes, you can take it off if you want. But that means that the alarm won't sound. It won't sound until my reading's actually been over 160 for over 20 minutes. I think that's brilliant. You can also snooze your alarms. You can set that to however long you want that. But that means I can have a high carb meal. And if I know I'm going to go high, well, it won't necessarily sound. What you also can do is you can have the clarity report on your screen, as I said before. So here you go. You see my blood sugar's up top and the clarity is down in the bottom. It's not that much information because I hadn't worn the sensor for that long. I don't need that. I don't love that. So I take that off, but you can include it if you want to. This is how I like to see my readings. And finally, before we move on to pricing, I want to bring up that there's also a new receiver. I use the Dexcom apps and don't really use the receiver, so I do not plan on buying one. But for those who love the receiver, just be aware that there's a new, updated, sleeker version. So to conclude, I look forward to switching over to Dexcom G7. I think it offers some really solid upgrades, and I look forward to using them. I just hope that the lost signal issue was a one-off. Now let's talk pricing. How much you're going to pay for Dexcom G7 depends on your insurance coverage or if you have insurance at all. If you have commercial insurance, and if your commercial insurance is already covering Dexcom G6 but not G7 yet, you can use the Dexcom G7 Simple Start program. So that will insure you a copay of $89 per month. And that will continue until your insurance starts to cover G7 and then your regular copay will kick in. If you do not have insurance or if your insurance won't cover your Dexcom, you can use the Dexcom Pharmacy Savings Program. With that program, you can save over $200 a month on your Dexcom G7. Since a month's use of Dexcom G7, if you're paying cash, can easily cost you over $400. So what I looked up was $444 a month. Any discount helps. And with the Pharmacy Savings Program, it looks like the price comes down to $212.13. If you have Medicare, Dexcom G7 is covered. However, one viewer did tell me that when she tried to get Dexcom G7, she was told that she had to wait until her current receiver was out of warranty. So what do you think? Will you be getting the Dexcom G7? Leave me a comment below, and if you like this video, please also give it a like. If you think Dexcom G7 might be for you, check out this video where I go over how to get your hands on one. Also, stay tuned as I'll be trying out more Dexcom G7s, and I'll of course be sharing my experience with you guys as well as tips and tricks. So to not miss out, remember to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, you'll be informed whenever I post new content. Thank you so much for watching.